Good morning, my 111 students. So this video is discussing the materials for review for your final exam on Saturday. So for number one, we have here Valentine Company paid the salaries of the employees for the first half of the month amounting to 246,500. Less the following SSS employees contribution of 6,300. PhilHealth employees contribution of 5,500 and withholding tax of 1,200. How much is the amount cash paid for the salaries? So we start with the 246,500 salaries and deduct all the deductions such as 6,300 of your SSS employees contribution, 5,500 PhilHealth contribution of employees, and the 1,200 withholding tax. So the amount of cash paid to the employees is 233,500, and that's letter B. Number 2, on August 3, 2021, Milan Data Encoders billed Digos City Multi-Co-op for the services rendered for the month of July amounting to 25,330. On August 10, 2021, Milan received cash of 10,000 as partial payment of Digos City Multi-Co-op. The entry to record the transactions would include for choice letter A, a debit to accounts receivable of 10,000 on August 10, 2021. So this is not correct because on August 10, the entry should be debit to cash and not debit to accounts receivable. For letter B, choice, a debit to accounts receivable of 15,330 on August 3, 2021. And this is not correct because the total accounts receivable that is billed to Digos City is 25,330 pesos. Choice letter D, a credit to accounts receivable of 15,330 on August 10, 2021. This is not also correct because on August 10, the credit to accounts receivable is only 10,000. For letter C, a credit to service income of 25,330 on July 31, 2021 is the correct answer since the August 3 billing is applying to actually July 31. So the journal entries, accounts receivable 25,330 and credit service income 25,330 pesos. For number 3, collection of accounts receivable amounting to 20,000 was recorded as debit accounts receivable and credit to cash of the same amount. To correct this entry, the entry should be debit to cash 40,000 and credit accounts receivable 40,000 because the accounts receivable collection, the journal entry to record it is debit the cash and credit the accounts receivable. So the company's recording of accounts receivable to 20,000 debit and then it doubled the amount for accounts receivable that has been overstated. So that's why our correction is we have the 40,000. So that's letter B. Number 4, Mikey Company sells 10,000 of equipment to Miko Company on credit. The purchase is regarded as goods for Miko, but instead is not regarded as goods for Miko, but instead it is for office use. Mikey will enter the transaction in the journal with a, so in the books of Mikey Company, who is the seller, that is regarded as sales on his part. So therefore, the entry in Mikey's point of view is debit accounts receivable and credit sales. That is letter A. Letter B is not the correct answer because Mikey Company is the seller. So therefore, the one who will debit equipment is Miko. Letter C, debit to equipment and credit to accounts payable. That is the entry for Miko's books. And letter D, credit to cash and debit to equipment is not correct because this is on credit. So the correct answer is letter A. For number 5, suppose Amin Trading has completed the following transactions in December 2020. Number 1, sales of goods of 55,000 to company X on credit. Number 2, purchase of goods of 20,000 from company Y on credit. Number 3, purchase of goods of 25,000 from company Z on credit. Number 4, sales of office use computer of 65,000 to company D on credit. What is the total amount recorded in the sales account for this month? So, to be recorded in the sales are the sale of goods. That's number 1 and number. Okay, so that's only transaction number 1. So, that's total of 55,000 only. So, the answer is letter C. For number 6, accounts payable ledger showed a debit posting of 180,000 and a credit posting of 320,000. If the balance of the accounts payable is 260,000, what is the missing in the general ledger? So, 320,000 credit posting minus 180,000 of a debit posting, then minus the ending balance, which is 260,000, it's equal to the 120,000 that is determined to be the beginning balance of the accounts payable general ledger. So the solution, you can also provide it through a general ledger or T account form. So you will still arrive at the same answer, which is 120,000 beginning balance that is missing in the problem. Number 7, the accounts receivable ledger showed a debit posting of 520,000 and a credit posting of 250,000. If the balance of the accounts receivable account is 340,000, how much is the beginning balance of accounts receivable? So we have debit posting of 520,000 minus credit posting of 250,000 and minus the 340,000 ending balance. Therefore, the accounts receivable has a 70,000 beginning balance. And again, you can also provide the solution through a T account form, placing the amounts of the accounts receivable postings in its side mentioned, and then get the work back the beginning balance, and you will still arrive at the same amount of 70,000. Number 8, suppose the opening entry of machinery account is a debit balance of 100,000. Within this month, there is an acquisition of machinery amounting to 420,000. Also, there is a sales of machinery to the sole proprietor at a cost price of 20,000. What is the opening balance of the machinery account the next month? So, the opening balance of the machinery account for the next month is the ending balance of this period. So, therefore, if we have a debit balance of 100,000, then additions of 420,000, so add it, and then deduct the sales of the machinery, which is 20,000. So, our ending balance currently is 500,000, and that would be the beginning balance at the next month. So, that is 500,000, letter B. Number 9. Office supplies were 9,000 at the end of January and 17,400 at the end of February. During February, office supplies expense equaled 6,000. How much cash was paid for office supplies during February? So, in here, we prepared the general ledger for your office supplies. So, at the end of January, it has 9,000 balance. We place it at on top, the beginning balance, and at the bottom we have 17,400, which is the ending balance at the end of February. And then the supplies expense, which is 6,000, we placed it on the credit side, because when we have the journal entry to prepare the adjustment here, actually, we will debit office supplies expense of 6,000 and credit office supplies 6,000. So that's why it's placed on the credit side. So to work it back, the cash paid for office supplies during February is 17,400 add back the 6,000 and then deduct the 9,000. So we will arrive at the amount which is 14,400, that is highlighted yellow. So the answer is letter B. Number 10. Salaries payable were 4,500 at the end of January and 3,600 at the end of February. Salaries expense for February was 16,400. How much cash was paid for salaries during February? So if salaries expense for February is 16,400, we will add the 4,500 salaries payable on January because this will be paid, and the unpaid salaries, which is 3,600 at the end of February, is deducted because that is not yet paid. So therefore, the total cash paid for salaries is 17,300, and that is letter C. The following information needed in the computation of doubtful accounts expense for 2020 for Lucky Company is available. So we have total sales for the year 8,510,000, total cash sales for the year 3,800,000, balance of the allowance for doubtful account previous year is 45,000 on the debit side. So the question is, if the allowance is based on 2% of credit sales, how much is the amount of doubtful account expense that would be recognized at year end? So if we are given total sales for the year of 8,510,000, we will deduct the cash sales, which is 3,800,000, to arrive at the value of the credit sales. And then multiply it to 2% because our doubtful accounts expense is based on 2% of the credit sales. So we arrive at the 94,200, which is the answer, and that is on letter C. Number 12. Using the data in number 11, what would be the balance of the allowance for doubtful account after adjustment? So the amount of 94,200 provision for bad debts we computed in number 11 is placed here on the credit side because the journal entry to record provision is debit, bad debt expense, and credit allowance for bad debts. And then the 45,000 beginning balance is posted on the debit side because it said that the beginning balance was 45,000 on the debit side. So if we have credit minus debit, therefore the ending balance for doubtful accounts is 49,200 on the credit side, and that's letter C. If an equipment costing 1,800,000 has a depreciation of 180,000 per year, what is the estimated useful life? So therefore, the cost of 1,800,000 divide annual depreciation of 180,000. Therefore, the life in years of the asset is 10 years. That's letter A. Number 14. The Trendy Company report the following balances on October 12, 2020. Accounts receivable, 66,345. Allowance for doubtful accounts, 4,145. So the net accounts receivable is 62,200. If an account of 4,000 is written off on October 5, what is the estimated realizable value of accounts receivable after the write-off? So the entry to record the write-off of the accounts receivable is to debit allowance for bad debts 4,000 and credit accounts receivable 4,000. So placing it in our analysis here, accounts receivable has 66,345 before the write-off. And then after recording the write-off, it credited 4,000, so we deduct 4,000. So accounts receivable after the write-off is 62,345. While the allowance for doubtful accounts before the write-off is 4,145. To record the write-off, we debited allowance at 4,000. Therefore, we will deduct it from 4,145. So the balance in allowance for doubtful accounts after the write-off is 145. So 62,345 of accounts receivable after the write-off minus allowance for doubtful accounts after the write-off, the net accounts receivable is still 62,200. So the answer is letter B. Number 15. The financial year of Marina Leasing Company ends on December 31 each year. On March 30, 2020, Marina received an annual service fee of 600,000 from a client for a service commencing on April 1 on December 31, 2020. So the answer here is the unearned revenue should be 150,000 because the 600,000 is good for 1 year. And then the unexpired period is from the expired period is from April 1 to December 31. So April 1 to December 31 is 9 months. Therefore, 12 minus 9, so we have 3 months of unearned portion. So 600,000 times 3 over 12 is equal to 150,000. So the answer is letter C. Number 16. A law firm began in November with office supplies of 16,000 during the month. The firm purchased supplies of 50,000. On November 30, supplies on hand totaled 21,000. Supplies expense for the period should be 16,000 plus additional supplies of 50,000 minus 21,000 on hand. The expense portion is 45,000 and that's letter C. 17. The adjusted trial balance of Enjoy Company on December 31, 2020 included the following: purchases 650,000, purchases, returns and allowances 30,000, transportation in 5,000, ending inventory was 93,000. What is the cost of goods sold for 2020? So 650,000 minus purchase returns of 30,000 plus the transportation in of 5,000. Then we will deduct the ending inventory of 93,000. The cost of goods sold is 532,000 and that's letter B. 18. Assuming that net purchases was 1,200,000 during the year and that ending merchandise inventory was 270,000, cost of goods sold amounted to 1,210,000. How much is the inventory beginning? So we just use the formula beginning plus purchases minus ending is equal to cost of sales. So cost of sales is given at 1,210,000 and we place it at the bottom. And the inventory is 270,000 and that was a deduction based on our formula. And 1,200,000 purchases is an addition. So therefore, when we work back, we have 1,210,000 add 270,000 minus 1,200,000. So we arrive at 280,000 and that is letter D, the amount of the inventory beginning. Number 19. If net sales is 2,090,000, gross profit is 520,000, cost of goods available for sale is 2,100,000. How much is the inventory end? So 2,090,000 of net sales minus 520,000 of gross profit, 1,570,000 is the value of the cost of sales. Minus cost of goods available for sale of 2,100,000, therefore the ending inventory is 530,000 and that's letter C. Number 20. If operating income is 265,500, cost of sales is 60% of net sales is 1,200,000, how much is the operating expenses? So 1,200,000 net sales, we will deduct cost of sales. So cost of sales is 60% of net sales, therefore 1,200,000 times 60%, that's 720,000. Therefore, 12 minus 720,000, the gross profit is 480,000. And then, at the bottom part, we place the 265,500 of operating income. So the difference between your gross profit and your operating income is 214,500 and that is the amount of your operating expenses. So that's letter A. 21. Lance started business on January 1. During the year, the company purchased merchandise with an invoice price of 5,570,000. Lance paid 200,000 freight on the merchandise. During the year, Lance returned 800,000 of the merchandise to its suppliers. All purchases were paid for in a timely manner, and a 100,000 cash discount was taken. 4,550,000 of the merchandise was sold for 6,500,000. What was the December 31 balance in the inventory account? So this one here assumes the use of perpetual inventory system. So 5,570,000 invoice price of the purchased merchandise. We will add the 200,000 freight because it will be debited to the inventory account. And then we will deduct the 800,000 returned to the suppliers. And we also deduct the cash discount because under the perpetual system, the cash discount is deducted or credited as inventory. And then we will deduct the 4,550,000 cost of the merchandise sold. So therefore, our December 31 ending balance of inventory is 320,000. And that is letter B. 22. EJ began the period with 200,000 in inventory. The entity purchased an additional 200,000 of inventory and returned 20,000 for a full credit. A physical count of the inventory at year-end revealed an inventory on hand of 160,000. What was EJ's cost of goods sold for the period? So based on the given information, beginning is 200,000. We add the 200,000 purchases also, and then we will deduct the purchase returns of 20,000. We also have to deduct the ending inventory at 160,000 to arrive at the cost of sales of 220,000, and that's letter B. So that's all. Thank you.